Hey guys, so a while back I made a video on how to paint and weather the boring, ugly, plain box that the Anakin slash Rey slash Luke lightsaber comes in at Disneyland. And a lot of you seem to enjoy that, but it wasn't very in-depth and didn't really show techniques on weathering and washes and some of the things I talked about. So I'm going to make another video today, and we're going to illustrate some of those techniques. And so today I made this quick mock-up of a Star Warsy control panel, kind of something like some of the panels that you see like in rooms in Star Wars. Like next to the doorway, it's almost like a light switch, or maybe it's the air conditioning control for the room. I don't know. But this isn't exactly like something out of Star Wars, but it's just something that we can kind of weather and have some fun with and kind of illustrate some different painting and weathering techniques. All right, so today I'm going to be using Testors metallic silver paint. You can get this at hobby shops. I like it a lot. And you're going to go ahead, we're going to paint this a nice silver as just a background. You start off the edges and kind of move across it. And you don't want to put too much paint on, because then it'll kind of run. This can is almost empty, so I'm going to have to kind of get it done. Okay, what you want to do after you've painted that silver on your piece is you want to mix up a wash. And what I'm using is this Artist's Loft acrylic. It's burnt umber. And I am mixing it probably around 8 to 1 or 10 to 1 with water. And that's what you want to do. You want to really mix it well, get all the globs out. You want it to be really thin. You want to kind of paint it on a little edge of your project first, just to make sure that it just kind of lays out really thinly, but you can still kind of see the color. It's almost like a darkly colored water, but it will gather in the nooks and crannies and the cracks, and then it will dry there and it will accent your piece. Okay, so what you want to accomplish with this wash is you want to spread it all over the entire piece, and you really want it to flow all over the whole thing and kind of remain on the surface, but you really want it to go into all the nooks and crannies, and you want it to sit there and dry there so that it accents all those spots. And I always want to have a paper towel handy when I'm doing this so that I can wipe it off. If I get too much in one spot, I can come in and I can wipe it off. I can wipe it right out, and it's not going to stick to this spray paint that I've sprayed on, because that is it's a dry surface now, and I'll be able to wipe this paint right off of it. It's non-porous, so I'm going to go ahead and I am going to spread this wash all over our control panel. And what you're going to see is that it's going to congregate. You can even kind of pour some on. It's going to kind of congregate in all the cracks and the crevices. And what that's going to do is give you a nice accented effect. So now I don't want that all over. That looks terrible. It's not gonna, I don't want it to dry like that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in with my paper towel, and I'm going to remove most of that from the surface. Any spot that you see where it's like kind of beating up and just sitting on the surface, you want to remove it. But you don't want to remove it from all the crevices and the cracks and in between stuff. So I'm going to come back and actually put a little bit more. Because I really want it to accent all of these cool little details that I put on here. And you want to pop any air bubbles as well. Those don't look right. Okay, now I'm going to wipe it carefully off the face. You can also kind of dab it if you want to have some remain on the face. You kind of just dab that around. And as you can see, that looks cool. It's kind of stuck in the spaces in between, and it looks like dirt or grime in there. Now I'm going to speed up the drying process with a hairdryer. I'm going to go ahead and put it on hot, and I'm going to put it on high. And I'm going to hold it far back from the piece and just let it help this thing to dry so that we can move on to our next step. You don't want to hold it close because it will melt the plastic, might cause your paint to kind of do weird things. Yeah, so you want to hold it far away and just help it dry out. Okay, so we've let that dry, and as you can see, I'm going to hold this up a little closer. You can see that in all of the nooks and crannies and cracks, you can see that that paint settled in there and dried nicely, and now we have some deep detail that gives it the depth that it deserves, you know, because it actually has depth, but you want to be able to see that depth as you look at it from different angles. And what we're going to do next is we're going to spray in between each step that we do, basically. We don't want to interfere with the previous step by putting more wet paint on, so we are going to spray a clear coat in between our steps. Okay, so I'm outside again, and we're going to be spraying a Tester's Dull Coat spray lacquer, and we're just going to give it a nice, even coat. This stuff lays down pretty nicely. And now we're going to let that dry. Okay, so now that clear coat is dry, and we're going to get into the fun part. This is called dry brushing. I'm going to use this type of brush. It's a soft tip brush. Again, I'm using the same Artist's Loft acrylic paint. I've got some black and some burnt umber. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the burnt umber. And I'm just going to dip into it. I'm going to get some paint on the brush, kind of load it up, and then on the tip, load up the tip. And then I'm just going to dab it on this paper towel until only a little bit gets left when I hit it. So now I'm going to come back and I'm going to go into certain parts of this, and I am just going to dab it on like this. And then I'm going to use, don't be afraid to use your finger. If you want to come in and kind of wipe it off a little bit. And what that does is it just kind of gives you the look of rust or dirt all over the edge of this thing. And then I want to come in and kind of smear it and smudge it a little bit. I'm going to get some more paint. Dab it off again. I'm going to come back, and now I'm going to maybe do a couple of like scratches, like kind of like that. Maybe kind of rub that off a little bit. And we're going to do some more rusty splotches along the edges. Maybe do that whole corner up there. Then I'm gonna get down into this crack down here a little bit and kind of push into that crack. Then I'm gonna smudge it a little bit. Maybe dab around it a little bit more. And you want to have an idea of what you want this to look like before you start. And I came into this with, again, with the Star Wars used universe kind of look. Put some more paint on my brush, dab it off. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to accent these things a little bit. And these little buttons, I'm going to make them a little scuffy. I'm going to get around the edges of this piece. Wipe it off a little bit. I like to really get involved. I like paint on my fingers. I like to kind of use every tool at my disposal. I like to get involved in whatever piece I'm working on. And yeah. So that's looking pretty good. And that got a little darker right there, but then I smudged it off. Again, I'm going to go around all these little places. I'm going to get into this crack up here a little bit. Kind of push in there. And that's starting to look pretty good. Oh, lost my paper towel. Okay. So that's starting to look pretty good. Now, without even cleaning my brush, I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab a little bit of black. Load up the tip of my brush. And with the black, you want to be a little more conservative because it's going to pop a little bit more against this silver. But again, I'm just going in and I'm accenting maybe some of the spots that are darker with the brown. Maybe you want to go in and add a little bit of black to that to make it, to kind of just deepen the effect of the weathering in those areas. Put a little black on the buttons as if they've been pushed a lot by dirty space fingers. You never know what kind of creature's been adjusting the AC in this section of the Star Destroyer. All right. I'm going to push down into this corner with the black a little bit and get it really dirty down there. Down near the edge where people's hands kind of trail off after they hit the switches. Maybe this is in a maintenance area and this is a dirty hand that's touching this thing all the time. We'll put some smudges underneath up here and some more smudgy black on these buttons. Like that. All right. That's getting to look pretty good. Okay, now we're going to come in with the final touches here. I've got my brush. I've cleaned it because now I'm going to go straight into a bottle of polyscale. You are never going to find this paint. This is polyscale. It's called ATSF Silver. It's a railroad paint, a model railroad paint. It's acrylic, but you could just get any silver, that's a metallic silver for this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this paint, and again, I'm going to load it up, and then I'm going to take some off, but I'm not going to go total dry on this one, because with this one, what I'm doing is, since we used the clear coat, the dull coat, we took the bright and shiny off of this, and what I'm doing right now is I'm coming back in, and I am restoring the shiny silver in certain spots. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it look like that original shine is coming through in certain areas, and in certain lights you're going to see it where the light reflects off of it. And so I'm just going to hit the edges like that, and I'm just dabbing a little bit in certain areas so that you see that shine in certain areas through all the dirt and the grime that is on this little panel. Now, some areas you're not going to see any shine through because it's just too dirty, too dusty, what have you. But in some areas you want to be able to see, kind of maybe in between the areas that you have a lot of the other colors, where it doesn't look like it's so grimy with the brown or the black. Maybe even on the buttons a little bit, in the areas where the paint is not. You want to get in there and you want to show some of that original shiny shine of the metal, because remember, this is a metal object. So I'm going to move it in the light, and now you can see, and I've gone a little too uniform in some of this, but you can now see through the dirt, and I'm going to do a couple like streaks. Through the dirt, you can see that there is some shine under there. And I like the look of that. That looks pretty cool. So you're gonna, this is the kind of thing that you would see, you know, inside of the Falcon on one of the control panels. It's going to be all dirty, and you're going to see some of this shine through there. And then you can get in, if you feel you got a little too much on, just kind of smudge it out a little bit. I'm going to smudge some of this out while it's still wet. So those are the exact same techniques that I used on the lightsaber hilt box from Disneyland. Again, it's wash and a dry brush over your basic background paint. You always want to make it look nice and new before you come in and do any weathering. And then you want to do that wash, do a clear coat so you don't mess up the wash, and then come back in and do your dry brushing. And after you put the metallic silver on for the accents, make sure you don't clear coat it again, because you will take away the shine from the metallic silver again and make it look just like the background color. And that's about it. Have fun.